It's a Wednesday evening, and across the east, either an autumn chill has already arrived or it's about to arrive as the northwest flow brings in cooler air over the next several days and probably lasts through the weekend and into next week. We've got the tropical storm Melissa meandering about in the Caribbean and all sorts of other things to show you regarding what the models are doing down the road. So we're going to have tons of fun here tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And you can support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast very easily, very simply. You all you have to do is do your Amazon shopping via our referral link that's on the descriptor to this podcast underneath the title of the show on YouTube. All you do is search for whatever it is you're going to buy. You buy it. Amazon throws us a little bit of coin for sending you there. It doesn't cost you 1 cent out of your own pocket. And it's an easy and helpful way because it keeps our live streams commercial free. So thank you for those of you who have done that on Amazon. And also, we'd like to call your attention to our other sponsor, which is Tempest by Weatherflow. The revolutionary Tempest weather system is yours for the asking. It's easy to install, runs off a mobile device. If you want a monitor for your wall, you can get one of those too. You'll be part of the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link for this is pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor of this podcast. Use that coupon code, Joe Rayo.
Which is autumn 2025, Joe Chiaffi.
And if you do, what will they get? Don Pardo.
You'll get. Oh, well, I never did a good Don Pardo.
No, but, nobody does a good. Only Don Pardo does a good Don Pardo.
Yes, you will get 10% off anything that you purchase from Tempest. And here's something, a little known fact. Everybody, of course, when John Kennedy was assassinated, the first report always shows Walter Cronkite breaking into As the World Turns. But on NBC, they were running a rerun of Bachelor Father. And who was the guy who broke into that program with the sad news that the president had just been shot? None other than Don Pardo.
It was Don Pardo. Oh, very good. I didn't
on
know
channel
that.
On NBC. On NBC.
Right. NBC, the Nothing But Crap Network.
I want to apologize to everybody. On the chat board because we were 3 or 4 minutes late, and people were starting to say, well, probably Chiaffi's internet went down again, or there was some technical problems. But actually, Joe and I were engaged in a rather serious conversation, which unfortunately went beyond the 7:35 start, and which is why that we're a little late. But it had nothing to do with technical difficulties on Joe's side or my side.
No, I just had to talk him off the ledge.
Yes, actually, that's true.
Yes, I had to talk him off the ledge. So anyhow,
yes.
Interesting week to 10 days coming up. I saw things on models today that I don't think I've ever seen before.
Well, I got to look at what is anticipated for Melissa next week, and that sharp cutoff or shortwave that's coming down from the Great Lakes that will be over the Northeast later next week, just in time for Halloween. And it's a bundle of different potentials coming our way for later next week to make for a very interesting stretch of weather next week.
Well, in specific, and I know the weather freaks already know this because they all were clamoring about the Canadian model today. And, the Canadian model, no offense to our friends in Canada who watch the show Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 and the occasional Friday and Saturday when there's a storm around. But the Canadian model is really not up there on the level of the GFS and the European. Every once in a while, and what I mean by once in a while, I don't know, every 5 or 10 years or so, it hits a home run. Okay. The last home run that I think that I remember the Canadian hitting was Probably the one that matters in terms of a big storm was probably the Boxing Day storm back in 2010, uh, and it's basically been on the disabled list ever since. So it again every 10 or so years, every 15 years, it does something that winds up being close to reality. But this one really mind boggled me, and I want to get to it because it was. I was looking at it and looking at it, and I said, I don't think I've ever seen something like this before. But anyway, let's
Where it
let's
just sucks, where it just sucks, it sucks Melissa up, so to speak.
well, yes, but it just the way it did it was something that like I said, I've never seen it before. John Carr bangs the tip jar to get the show going. Thank you very much, John, for hitting the super chat tip jar. Joseph Carr. I'm sorry, Joseph Carr. I was thinking somebody else that I know whose name was John. Whose name is John Carr. Joseph Carr. But thank you again for hitting super chat. All right, let's get going here. Let's talk about Melissa, and we'll start with the Hurricane Center. And there's just so much weirdness with this. It just is. I mean, literally, it's sitting in a dead zone as far as the upper flow is concerned. It's just crawling. I mean, you could walk faster than the speed that Melissa is moving, which is something like 2 miles per hour. So at 5 o'clock, it's at 14.4 and 74.3. So it's basically from yesterday was at 73.3 when we were doing this show. So it's moved a whopping 60 miles in 24 hours. And you can see that. Have you ever seen them pile on the letters so close together like they do here in terms of motion
No.
between Wednesday evening and Saturday morning? I mean, it literally moves maybe 100, maybe 120 miles to the northwest.
So besides that, that's supposed to be a cone. It looks more like a circle to me.
Well, yeah, and that's probably the first time I've seen them actually use a circle because of the fact that it's moving so slowly, and then it's going to turn. The way they have the forecasting, they're turning it west or even slightly south of due west, strengthening it to a major hurricane by next Monday afternoon. I'm going to tell you right now, with respect to the intensity, good luck with trying to figure out what this is going to do because there's so much happening. There's shear. The models that are forecasting the shear to go away. Well, that was supposed to happen 2 days ago. It didn't happen. And it's really impacting the strength of the storm. And the thing is, if this thing were to strengthen faster, it would be more likely for it to move northward and then northeastward, perhaps over Haiti, and then out through the Bahamas and goodbye out into the open waters of the Atlantic. But not all the models are doing this. Actually, more models are taking it to the west than they are to the northeast, far more. And we'll get to that in a moment. Top winds are still 50 miles an hour. That hasn't changed from yesterday. And on the satellite loop, which I'm going to update here, it's a little hard to see. The center is just basically on the edge of all this convection. You can sort of see it until it goes to the infrared. Everything's going on the east side. There's hardly anything going on the west side. And you can see the higher cloud tops to the northwest are all blowing from west to east. So it's dealing with about 20 to 25 knots of wind shear, and that's why it's got this sort of asymmetrical look to it. Now, the shear goes away with the water temperatures down in the Caribbean in the mid 80s. This thing's going to blow up, but that's the key here is that the shear has to go away. Now take a look at this, Mr. Ray. I just want to show you. So this is the intensity guidance, which has been getting more and more bullish in terms of strengthening down the road. Two models, the HFAI and the HFBI, okay, strengthen it to a category 5. The HFBI, Joe, takes it to 195 knots. So on
Oh,
an,
dear
on an
me.
advisory, that would be 200, probably would be 215 miles an hour. That would be a
I
first.
mean, Oh God,
Right. Well, that's just two
unbelievable.
models. Uh, a few of them make it either a three or a four, which I think probably makes sense, and some of them, a one or a two. But that kind of stood out to me. And then when we look at the forecast tracks from the hurricane model guidance, there are really three or four models that do this sharp turn to the northeast. The rest of them kind of move it west. Some of them, one of them in particular, the UK one that's based off the UK Met, the UK Met XI, and I'm assuming XI means 11, so the UK 11 takes this west southwest into I don't know, is that Honduras there? I think that's Honduras. So it takes it to the west southwest. Others take it west of Jamaica, then recurve it and take it over Cuba, and then I assume when it gets to the other side, it'll be in the Bahamas. So, and in the short range, you can see all the lines are sort of crossing each other there in all sorts of different directions. So there's not much in the way of confidence here in terms of what this thing is going to do track wise because the upper flow is just dead down there. There's no real push. There's no strong ridge driving it west. It's just going to sit there and wait for the upper atmosphere to the north to change to drive it in one direction or another.
Well, the thing is that you talk about being in the doldrums, so to speak. This thing is in the doldrums. It can't go anywhere, as you just mentioned, Joe, until something opens up, and maybe something will begin opening up. Not immediately, but maybe 4 or 5 days from now, and allow it to begin to move on a northward trajectory. Now, whether or not that trajectory is going to be north or north northeast or northeast or even north northwest, that depends upon which model you look at and which model you believe. And again, we come all the way back around to, for example, what the Canadian did. Unless you want to go with the GFS or the European first as to what they're going to do with this thing. I personally would like to look at the Navy no gaps, but that's
We can look at them all. I want to go to the Canadian because the Canadian model was one of these. You get these. I guess we can call them jaw dropping moments when they do things that just seem to be extraordinary. And for those of you who haven't seen it, I have the Canadian model up on the screen now. I've rolled. Let me roll it back. So you know, as we go forward, obviously there's not much going on through the weekend in the east. There is an impulse in Texas with heavy rains for the southern plains that moves eastward. Okay, and then we get more energy from all the energy that's coming into the Pacific. And you see that low there that's in southern Kansas. Big high builds, almost a 1040 high in Labrador. And it's not one of these warm ridge highs. This is actually a fairly chilly high that's building to the north. Thicknesses, Joe. If this were January right now, the snow lovers would be going insane trying to figure out how this was going to play. The 540 thickness, which is the dashed blue lines that we use the 540 line sometimes, or sometimes it could even be 546. In fact, most times it's closer to 546 as a good indicator of where the rate snow line is going to be. That actually is down somewhere in Maryland. So this is the map that's up on the screen is next Tuesday. So we're going to be actually rather cool because we're getting troughing in eastern Canada that's bringing down cooler air as the high builds. And then, of course, a coastal storm forms southeast of Wilmington, North Carolina, and you see it there, right over Cape Hatteras, and starting to move northward. Meanwhile, Melissa on the Canadian gets almost to 83 or 84 degrees west. And we were talking about this yesterday. For this to be any kind of threat to the East Coast, you're going to have to get it as far west as possible before it starts moving northeastward. And what happens is the non-tropical coastal storm brings wind and rain next Wednesday into Thursday, and then lifts up to the northwest. And that just basically sucks up the hurricane. Melissa goes out northeast, turns north, and then comes screaming into the New Jersey coast. I was told that the pressure in in coastal New Jersey, when that low is there, Joe, is down to 953 millibars. And then it just kind of goes back westward into, Erie, Pennsylvania, and that's where the upper low is and all the rest of it. So how does it get there? And that's the thing that really kind of, uh, really struck me, because you just don't see this sort of stuff. Uh, Certainly, I can't remember it and we're seeing something like this. But when you look at the upper air, pay attention to the area. Let me mark it off. Here's an upper low sitting basically right on the St. Lawrence River. Here's the short wave that's going to undercut the ridging and go straight east. And of course, you got that mess out in the Pacific. Now, watch what that upper low does. Normally, these things might drop southeastward and then go out to the east, but not this time. I don't know why it does this. It could be the strong upper high that builds up into eastern Canada and Labrador, but that upper low,
Kind of cradles it,
well,
cradles it in
Joe,
its arms. So
when have you seen a closed upper feature in New England or New York State retrograde all the way back to Wisconsin? I mean, you really,
no,
I look at that. I mean, look at that. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this. And of course, all the energy in the Pacific now is getting forced to the southeast coast, and you get this mega upper low that forms in the central Appalachians and then pins itself back into Ohio. So, of course, the hurricane's going to get caught in this and get, like a teeter totter. It's just going to get levitated northward and then thrown back northwestward as the upper low on the Canadian model uh, sort of settles eventually down in Virginia. I mean, this is ridiculous. When I looked at this, it's like I don't. When have you ever seen something like that?
well, I have a sneaking suspicion that tonight on the Canadian, the GEM Canadian global model, there'll be a completely different scenario. Well, maybe not completely different, but different from what
Somewhat
you see
different.
here.
Now look at the
Yeah.
difference between that and the European for the same time frame. Because now this to me makes more sense. Okay, uh, the upper low on the European actually drops into the Gulf of Maine, and then it sort of stretches back to north of Lake Erie. I'm sorry, Lake Ontario, and then does kind of to some extent does kind of the same thing the Canadian does, except it's much further east. It's not nearly as crazy. It's deep, but it's not crazy deep. But everything is way out in the ocean. There's an arm that comes around. You can see there's a trough there from Virginia down to the north coast of Florida. The hurricane at this point is sitting somewhere between eastern Cuba and the eastern Bahamas. And then it gets shot out, and of course, it goes right over Bermuda, because the European loves to make hurricanes go right over Bermuda. Now, this to me looks a little bit more realistic. I mean, the Canadian was just one incredible extreme, and then you've got the GFS, which is its own little world here. The GFS with that upper low goes down in the Gulf of Maine and then gets actually ejected eastward. And while you do get all this energy that piles down into the central Appalachians, it makes for a coastal storm that forms offshore and goes out well to the south and east and goodbye. And then it's followed by another diving upper low later in the forecast period during the first 3 or 4 days of the month of November. I mean, if this verifies for say November 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, it's going to be rather cold in the northeast and mid-Atlantic states and even into the southeast. But there's just some crazy upper lows here, a lot of uncertainty, and a lot to watch in the coming days to see how this all finally evolves.
One question, and have we thought about this yet? Is let's take a look at the ensemble, the Canadian ensemble,
Oh, okay,
and
let's do.
what does it do with that?
So that's the gaps. All right, let's see if I can get the ensemble mean. It's pretty far out at this point, so this thing's probably going to be all over the place. So let's go to next Thursday. So I'm assuming those dark spots you see over the Bahamas and then between Bahamas and Bermuda are the reflection of Melissa. But it does have a coastal low
Right.
there east of the Virginia coast that it takes, right through the snowstorm box at 40 and 70. So there's that. the European ensemble, let's take a look at that one. And this is the 12Z. So the European ensemble. Well, I mean, the European ensemble actually takes some kind. I'm assuming that that's a non-tropical low that's southeast of North Carolina, and the tropical low is or the dark spots in the Bahamas. It does have a low, a mean position, Joe, at about 39 and 71. I mean, that certainly would imply wind and rain if that were correct. And so we got the European. We've seen all three major ensembles. So, I mean, the ensembles seem to be
They
pointing to
all seem to be,
something is going to happen. Something we don't know what exactly, but something.
well, it seems to be red flagging. Not to say that it's going to be, dry with a chance of brush fires, but red flagging the potential for some kind of a major coastal system, east coastal system on or around Halloween this year. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that all pans out.
Well, and the thing is, we could. I think we should make the distinction to the fact that it's a non-tropical system that might wind up happening in one form or another, regardless of whether Melissa ever gets involved in this. In fact, getting Melissa and the tropical storm involved in this is probably a very very long shot at this point. I won't say it's a non-zero chance, but it's I think it's separate from the fact that we can look at this and say that, well, there might be a non-coastal system later next week, and you could still have Melissa in there, but maybe Melissa gets deflected out to the northeast. I would think that that's the more likely scenario.
And we know, of course, with the no name storm, the Halloween storm of 91, that some storm systems at this time of the year, some coastal storm systems can be very, very potent. And in fact, maybe even of more concern, greater concern than tropical cyclones, because, get a tropical cyclone, let's say north of 35 degrees north latitude over, that chilly water and get consolidated into the stronger upper level system. So it seems, Joe, that there's something significant, something major may happen later next week. But as to the precise details, well, as they used to say on those old time radio shows, to be continued next week or next
Well,
tomorrow.
the 18Z European, which I have on the screen courtesy of Pivotal Weather, and I'm using the North America view because this way you can see what's going on with Melissa as well as what's going on across the North America. And Melissa is just sitting there south of Jamaica, just actually literally creeping westward. It gets down to a 956 millibars on the European. That would be next Monday morning, uh, this coming Monday morning. And then down to a 934, 939, and starting to move more northward. Meanwhile, and we only go out 144 hours. So we do have a low at that point just southeast of Wilmington, another low much further to the east, and you can see the highs to the north are just sort of cradled around it. So, well, we would need to see another 100 or so hours to see what the run does to do a good comparison to what the earlier runs showed. But the 18Z run is like this, and if we look at the 12Z, in fact, I'll bring down the North America view uh, just to make it a little easier here to look at. And so here it is on the 144 at 18Z. This would be, wait, one more. There we go. This would be next Tuesday afternoon on the old 12 hours on the old model, which would be, let's get to Thursday afternoon. This was the old run with one low way out and just like a stretched out isobar. Now it's got the first low out, but it's got a distinct second low there. So too much here, too much on the table, too much going on in the upper atmosphere. Who the hell knows how this is going to play out?
I certainly don't.
No, the only thing I will say is that I said this before last week as far as the tropical system is concerned, if it were to move up the East Coast and threaten the East Coast, it would be completely out of pattern with what's been happening all through the hurricane season, where they've all been going out to the northeast and never really getting any further north than 35 degrees north and just going out to the east northeast. So I'll say it again, like I said last time, which I'm sure that means that there'll be runs between now and next Monday that are going to have, going to have me wanting to. I'm not going to say anything definitive, obviously, but if you're asking me today to put a bet, I would say that the tropical system really is not going to be relevant. There might be a coastal system that will be relevant, and that to me is what makes the most sense at this point.
It's what can I say? And as we've noted, this time of the year, famous for some very historic systems. The no name storm in 1991. Of course, we had the unusual snowstorm that hit parts of the area in 2011 or on October 29th. Sandy, of course, 1 year later on October 29th. So again, this is, I guess you could say that if you're looking for a time frame where it appears the atmosphere is waking up and becoming more of a player, so to speak, in terms of major systems. This would be the time to look.
Agreed. Agreed. Meanwhile, we've got frost advisories and freeze warnings up for parts of the Ohio Valley, all the way back to the upper Mississippi River Valley and further west into the Central Plains. Otherwise, we don't have any other adverse weather watches or warnings or anything along those lines. Steve Lapointe, thank you so much for hitting Super Chat. 69 likes, he says. Appreciate that. And by the way, welcome to those of you who are in the background lurking in the background, watching the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, as well as a big welcome to everybody on the chat board. The show's here Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. Fridays and Saturdays are off days for us because we are human, rumors to the contrary, and we like to have a couple of days where we could just relax. But if there were a storm around, we would certainly juggle the schedule. So subscribe to my YouTube channel, turn your notifications on, and if you like the show, if you like what we're doing, if you don't like what we're saying, but you like us, hit the like button because that makes us happy. And we're very touchy.
Yeah, yes, Reuben Fairchild. If there was a significant storm coming next week, yes, we would probably do, as we've always said, we would do extra shows, and we would do extra shows. You say in capital letters, Joe, more shows? We want more shows for the storm. Let's go!
Right. Where was he 2 weeks ago with with the coastal storm when we did all those extra shows?
Yes, do you remember that?
Yes, including
I
twice,
remember that.
including being on twice on Sunday. But
And Saturday.
and
No,
Saturday,
no, excuse me. We did
once
twice on Sunday. We did an early show on Saturday.
that's correct. Here's our surface map tonight. The cold front that went through this. By the way, this front actually outperformed a little in terms of rain. I was seeing some of the rainfall totals, and they were on the order of a quarter to a half an inch. I mean, okay, big deal, but we were thinking, the models were only spitting out maybe a tenth or less in some places. I woke up this morning and saw a loaded radar over eastern Connecticut and eastern Long Island and points eastward. And then I went back and looked at some of the rainfall amounts at Newark and New York City. So a little bit of an outperformance for a change.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm just
But
reading
there.
some of the. I'm just looking at some of the comments on the chat board, Joe. That's
Oh,
you
that's
know.
good. Oh, very good. Here's the 21Z. I think it's the 21Z map. Did I? No, sorry, that's the 15Z. Here's the 21Z, and the front is now cleared Boston and is moving through Maine. And we've got this northwest flow and getting ready to let the big high build in. Meanwhile, a gorgeous day across the deep south. I mean, it was just really beautiful. Uh, Dew points were down into the 30s, all the way down to the Florida Panhandle. That's how dry this air is, and how far south that this air has got. So just an absolutely gorgeous day here of sunshine and more coming. Not too much going on in the west also at the moment, just fairly quiet. And on the GOES satellite loop, which we'll take a look at, and this is freshening up. So while it's freshening up, I'm going to jump to the radar and we'll take a look at that. Now there are some heavier showers. This is some lake effect stuff that's happening. It's all rain, but coming in off of Lake Erie into southwestern New York. So if this were a month from now, the lake effect would be a big deal with this, particularly because it's going to last for a few days. But you can see where all the bands are coming in off of Lake Michigan into western Michigan, off of Lake Erie, into northeast Ohio, and into western New York, and also eventually up into north central New York. There's also a couple of light showers that have popped up in southeastern Pennsylvania. And we have a little bit of activity in terms of some rain shower activity in parts of the southwest, but nothing really that's causing any problems. The Storm Prediction Center, SPC, okay, that's loading, so we'll give that a moment. Here we go. So I just jumped to the first day of more significant risk, and that would be Friday into Saturday for a good chunk of Texas, central and west Texas. And this is going to be part of the big rainmaker that's going to be in the southern plains and in the lower Mississippi River Valley, where we're looking at several inches of rain or more, and maybe a potential moderate risk for flash flooding over parts of Texas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana over the weekend. They put it in this patch of a half to three quarters of an inch. And this takes us through next Wednesday night. So I'm kind of wondering where they got this from. See that little patch there, Joe, over New Jersey and touching Long
Yeah,
Island of
yeah.
a half to three quarters. I mean, that's certainly not going to be anything, over the next couple of days. That's got to be from what they're thinking. Maybe.
I don't.
Go ahead.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Jim?
No, no, go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say, on my Facebook forecast, I have it dry straight on through next Wednesday.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure exactly where they're picking up on that precipitation when it may fall. I don't understand.
No, I don't either. But basically, at least certainly through the daytime next Wednesday, from Maine down to Florida, we're talking for the most part a tenth of an inch or less, and yeah, maybe this should be like a hundredth of an inch of less through next Wednesday because there's just not going to be very much of anything happening. And in the Pacific Northwest, as energy keeps piling into the Northwest, we're seeing several to many inches from northwestern California up the coast through Oregon, Washington, and into British Columbia and Vancouver Island. They get pounded with these big rain events for so many. For how do you live it? How do you live through that? How do you deal with that? I mean, if it's not raining, it's cloudy.
I don't. Yeah,
I mean, it's
it could
got
be
it could be cloudy there.
psychologically it could be a downer. I think.
Oh yeah, I mean, it could be cloudy for weeks at a time, even a couple of months
Right.
worth, depending on what the pattern is. It's just crazy. Here's a satellite loop tonight, and again, much of the country enjoying cloud-free conditions. But you see the rotation around the Great Lakes with the upper low and the strands of clouds that are moving from Wisconsin and Minnesota southeastward through Ohio and into Pennsylvania, and the moisture coming in off the Great Lakes. And you can also see what's going on with the moisture in the southwest. And on the lower right, you can just pick up on what is Tropical Storm Melissa. So, as Joe said, other than instability showers that might be widely scattered and pop up well inland, for most people, it's going to be dry tomorrow. It's also going to be cool with temperatures probably in the 50s to near 60 for the next several days. And it may get even cooler when we go through the weekend as that next high rebuilds back southward and cooler air comes down from eastern Canada and northern New England. You could probably think maybe on Sunday the temperatures might not get much above the low and mid 50s for highs. And the same could hold for Monday. And then we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, certainly through at least next Tuesday. The only thing I'm looking at this is that maybe they're thinking there's going to be this sort of low with an onshore flow, and that maybe there'll be some stuff coming in from off the ocean. But that wouldn't happen until next Wednesday at the earliest anyway. So, but you're right. It's going to be
Yeah, well,
dry.
first of all, here in the lower Hudson Valley, where I usually concentrate on, I'm saying that temperatures are going to be averaging about 4 to 5 degrees below normal from tomorrow right on through the middle of next week. So we'll be cool. And as far as you know, cold temperatures are concerned, if we're talking about, and we've already had a couple of situations where they've had freeze warnings or frost warnings put up, uh, I think we might be looking at Saturday night into Sunday morning, Joe. I think
Yes.
Saturday night into Sunday morning, far and away the coldest. In fact, not just Saturday night, Sunday night. Saturday and Sunday
Yes.
night, two of the coldest nights. Maybe even continuing into Monday night.
Yeah,
Those
I
three
agree.
nights,
I,
Saturday night, Sunday night, and Monday night, will be the coldest nights so far. And goodbye to Renata's tomatoes, by the
I know.
way.
I totally agree. And the model, the model supports that cooler air that's coming southward. So I'm on the same page with you. You have Briller Jeopardy tonight?
No, I don't.
Oh, I do?
Do you have it?
Yeah, I do. I do. I'm
I didn't.
sorry. I do have it. Okay. Hold on. I'm
I
going
mean,
to.
last night you had it.
Uh,
I think last night you had it.
no, you had it last night. I have it tonight. I got it here. Okay.
Oh,
So we're
oh,
still doing, and thank
all
you,
right.
Scott Briller, for sending this. We're still doing average highs in the month of October, although alphabetically we're toward the end. So we might go to something different tomorrow. Average highs, month of October, Seattle. Oh, and by the way, Joe, we have 96 likes, so we only need four for 100. So monitor very
Yeah,
closely.
I'm
Seattle.
sure. I'm sure. Seattle. Well, oh, darn it. What did I? Why did I do that?
I don't
I
know.
hate when I hate I hate when I get screwed up here. I hate when I get screwed up like this on Facebook. Um, so Seattle. What could possibly be Seattle? I know it's in the northwest corner of the country. Aside from that, I don't know. I'll say for Seattle, I'll say 62.
Very close, but Patrick Darcy got it, Joe. 61. A few said 62. Maggie P was one. Howard A another. But 61 is the correct answer. On to St. Louis.
St. Louis, Emma.
Yes, St. Louis.
Ah, dear me. Uh, how about 66?
NBC.
WNBC.
A good guess. A little low though, Joe. A little low. Joseph Carr, you're very close at 70, and CWTR is 670. Um,
We just hit
100
100.
likes.
Yes.
Chuck Cardillo gets it 69. 69. Okay, Tampa.
Tampa, Florida. Tampa. What could we do for Tampa? I'm debating now whether or not Tampa might have 80 or higher for an average high in the month of October. I'm going to say 80. How about 80 degrees?
And yeah, that's low. Frank Scalera, you banged it on first try. 86. 86. Mr. Scalera
Wow.
does well with these, and he did hit it on the nose. Give him a bell ring.
I will. There you go. That's for Frank, not for the likes.
Next, Ginny Beach. Virginia Beach.
Where? What? Oh, oh,
Ginny
oh,
Beach.
Virginia Beach.
Virginia Beach.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Ba, 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 ba. How about, ladies and gentlemen, 72.
Ring the bell for yourself.
Thank you. Ding, ding.
And Washington, D.C., which is not far from Virginia
Didn't we
Beach.
do?
It's not close, but it's
Can
not
we do
far.
Washington? I guess not. How
No.
about uh, how about 69?
And how about you ring the bell for yourself again?
Again. There you go.
And finally, for the bonus, Joe, it's Fasilax Scotia Nova.
Halifax?
Halifax, Nova Scotia. Yeah, Halifax. Never
Okay,
mind. Go ahead.
Halifax. When I give you my guess, do you do it in Celsius or are you going to do it
No,
in Fahrenheit?
Fahrenheit. You can do it in Fahrenheit.
It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't matter. How about 61?
That's a little bit too high, but we do have a correct guess from Louis Orizio at 58. 58 is the correct answer for Halifax, Nova Scotia. So there you have it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And Scott Briller banged the tip jar. I don't know if I
There you
may not have said it before, but if I did, we thank you twice. Thank you for uh, hitting Super Chat and for providing the trivia. And we're going to be doing a long series on about snow coming up, according to Mr. Scott. So there you go. Okay, I'm beat.
Lovely.
I don't know about you. I'm tired. I got to wake up early because they're coming tomorrow morning to rip out my old cabinets and put in my new ones. So I have to be there for that. And Lou Arizio just hit the tip jar too. Thank you, Louis. Most appreciated. So I'm ready to go to bed. So on that note, we just say goodnight. Why don't you say goodnight tonight? I always say goodnight first. You say goodnight.
Well, that's the way it is. Wednesday,
It's the way it is.
October
Wednesday, October
22nd,
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 2025.
2025. Good night, David.
Good night, Chet. Good night, everybody.